Just for today, just because normally I don't like having anything on the screen when I do the tier list, specifically because I just want it to be the tier list. I want the focus to be the content. This week, because it's a charity event, I want to make sure that we're still having some stuff up here. So let's go. First things first, Raijin is new and is not allowed in competitive play. Amaterasu will be available next week, so she will be allowed. Sol, we will consider if the bug is gone. Although, even though there is a bug, I think that she should have been allowed. She's not that good, and I don't think a small bug should stop a character from being in the game, because if we allow Raven to be played, we should allow Sol. Let's start with Agni. We're going to start him off in A+. A to A+ is usually the focal point of balance, but I think Agni right now is just a little bit stronger than other mages in Season 3, specifically because with the nerf to beads, or now purification, dashes are very important. He has long-range stuns, CC very strong, so Agni is going to get an A+ rating. Amuzin Cobb, I think it's too early to say that he's going to be a C tier. I still think that Amuzin Cobb might have a chance here. Lack of CC immunity definitely hurts him, but I think the damage control is good. His solo lane's not terrible, although you can't really do it in the current warrior meta. I think it's too early to say whether he's going to be C or D, though he does feel C right now. We'll put him in B to be safe, specifically because I think it's too early. I don't think anyone really knows the meta well enough to determine if a character is C, right? Which is borderline useless. This is where they can't be played ever, ever, ever. This is where it's like, okay, they're not terrible. They're not like the worst characters in the game, even though they kind of are. This is kind of like there might be competitive viability here on certain comps, so we'll keep them there for now. Opwash to B+. Actually has a hard time against certain CCs, but has a lot of control, can heal himself very well. Self-sustain is currently very strong in the meta. Healing's not great. Self-sustain is great. On her. I think is an A character right now. Balanced. Seems to do a decent amount of damage. There's been a fair amount of talk about this character's viability, and I think that he's very underrated right now, specifically because he has a lot of CC immunity in his kit, and he has a really good jump. I'm expecting things from on her at the beginning of the SPL. Ami goes to S tier. I think she's good. I don't know if she's ban-worthy just yet. I feel like she's like second, third, fourth pick. I don't know if she's first pick worthy. I still think she's very good. My problem with the character is she's very unfun to play against. It's very hard to lock her down. Movement speed aura is one of the strongest things currently in the game. Anubis goes right into the B tier. I mean, I don't think we need to talk about this a lot. The character's just not very good. Plain and simple, he's just not very good. His damage isn't that high in a burst damage meta. His CC immunity is borderline useless, and he has no escapes. I don't like him at all. It's likely we'll see him going down within the next couple of weeks. Ao Kuang right to SS. I strongly believe that Ao Kuang is top 2 in the game right now. The only other character that's as strong as he is Raven. And I really think that Ao Kuang might be even better than Raven is, although it's hard to say. We don't have enough competitive experience in a public setting yet to say which character should be valued more. But for me, it kind of feels like it should be Ao Kuang. Aphrodite to B tier. Definitely one of the weakest. I would say she's probably bottom 10 right now in the game. Burst damage is very low, and even though it seems like her ultimate should be very strong, Ryan, thank you very much for your donation to charity, $20 added. It seems like she should be strong with her ultimate. She just doesn't have enough. The current items she can't use very well aside from breastplate, and it just doesn't feel like a character that you should be picking up. Apollo to A tier. I think he's about as good as on her. Although Apollo has the benefit of split pushing, forcing people to separate and fight Apollo right now should be considered pretty strong, but there are still hunters who are better. Arachne A tier. It's strange to me because when the season started, I really felt like this character was going to be impossible to beat. She has all the tools that you would want in this meta, and yet it doesn't seem like she can actually get them to work. It seems like people are just getting away from her and kiting her a little bit too easily. But, of course, if you do get ahead in the early game, it's basically GG. Cause DS, thank you. For those watching this number down here, the 41, just right below the mouse, that's the unique subs today. Every sub is $5 going to charity as well today. So thank you to everyone who's supporting that as well. Ares goes into A tier. I think he's pretty balanced right now. I think him and Kumbhakarna are probably going to share a space in the A tier as slightly below, or slightly right at the point of balance, it seems. And it's funny because so many people are like, oh my god, Purification is nerfed. Ares ruins the game. He's like, he's pretty good. He's not broken, though. He's definitely not. He's pretty balanced. Perger, thank you for the 8-month sub. Artemis to B+. I think she's good. I think she's a little bit better than a Muzenkov right now. Having CC immunity in her kit and some of the highest damage in the game makes her pretty hard to deal with in certain matchups. She still gets rushed down pretty easily. I think the boar still needs to be a bit smarter than it is, because it doesn't seem very smart. But it's definitely a step up from where she was. I do expect at least some Artemis play throughout the SPL. Athena to S+. Taunt being still one of the best moves in the game. Mosmi, thank you for the 14-month sub. One of the best moves in the game. Harder to deal with now with beads on a longer cooldown. Harder to come by. Her global rotation still valued very high. Expect things from a Wheelish. I'm sorry, from Athena. A Wheelish going into A tier. Again, beads being on a longer cooldown, meaning she's getting more chances at her pull. There's not a lot of cripples currently in the meta, so it's allowing her to rush people down and get that feather step off, and Stone Cutting Sword has made her very, very hard to deal with. Box to A tier, tanky, good CC, belly flop, great initiation, similar to Ares and Kumbhakarna, not quite at that same tier as Athena or Geb or, you know, those guys, but still, I think, valuable. Bakasura to B+. I think the character's good right now, but he's still outclassed by warriors. There are very few scenarios where you're going to want a character that does this type of damage, especially considering that some of the junglers are very hefty with auto attacks right now, namely a Wheelish and Kali. Putting another auto attacker on your team from the solo lane can result in too much counter building with your hunter. Things like Midgardian Mail and Frostbound Hammer. Thus, you have to be a little bit more careful when playing him. And while he's decently strong and probably plays more towards an A or A+, his picks and bans potential puts him a lot lower because he only fits with certain teams and against certain comps. So B+ it is. Bastet to A tier, decent damage, not a lot of control, which hurts her, but her potential in burst is very, very high, which is, I think, a little underrated right now. I'm expecting to see some Bastet play through the SPL. Bologna to A+. You thought I was going to go S. A+. Good solo laner. She doesn't really support that well anymore. She just doesn't have the resilience to do it. Her jungle is slow now, and given the fact that her initiations aren't amazing with just her in the mid, I would expect that we're only going to really see her for team fights from the solo lane. With that, she is a decent solo laner, although there are better picks, as we will see later on, but still fits onto most comps. Decent damage, good control. We'll definitely be seeing a lot of her. Kabrakan goes to B tier, certainly one of the worst characters in the game right now. He's slow, he has basically no passive, and despite the fact that he has a fair amount of CC, he doesn't really do anything that you would really want. He takes too long to get online, and he's generally an unsafe character. It's just better to pick warriors. Speaking of warriors, Chalk hasn't seen a lot of control here, or a lot of play, specifically because he doesn't have a lot of control. Most notably, his 3-second silence isn't coming into play a lot, and since Tyr is so heavily in the meta, Tyr winds up being a major counter pick because he out-heals him, he out-damages him, and of course his unyielding passive forces that 3-second silence to be a 1-second silence, giving full control. Tyr doesn't have many matchups where he excels, only matchups where he ties, and his endgame is weak. Although there are builds that make him a little bit stronger, I think it's too early to say whether or not he's going to be played, and I'm not expecting much from him. Hampshire, thank you for the sub. Chang'e, B+. In the meta where she's not super strong, I think her early game is good. It's her late game that actually winds up making her suffer. Waxing Moon, very effective, but it's been hard to land it on multiple people considering how attuned people are to how much CC there really is in Smite since the beads nerf. No one's letting you get away with being Chang'e anymore, and her late game damage is very hard to confirm because it's as close to melee range as a mage is going to have to get. Chiron clearly to S+ here, as considered the strongest hunter in the game. Great sustain, ultimate makes you invincible, auto-targeted shot, dash goes 100 units. Like, this character has everything that you could possibly want, and he's insanely easy to play. Probably the easiest hunter in the game, probably easiest character in the game to play, honestly. I'm expecting even more Chiron play going into the SPL, as he has been a top pick, top ban throughout relegations. Chronos to S. Very highly sought after by a lot of teams. This was the character that got zeros to Grandmasters immediately, and with a buff to a lot of items that he uses, and the fact that stop time is even stronger than it was, given the fact that people can't beat out of it as freely in the mid lane. Chronos is very, very powerful. He plays 3 roles, he plays all of them fairly well, and given how strong Doomorb is, he's pretty difficult to deal with. I'm expecting to see a lot of Chronos play. Cupid to B+, not quite as versatile as Anhur or Apollo, but still good damage, good control. The character does a few things well, but obviously still has Cupid's main flaws. Given the fact, however, that Beads and Sprint are on longer cooldowns, he does have an even better matchup now against Uller and Xbalanque. Unfortunately for Cupid, those 2 hunters are not really in the meta currently. Don't expect to see a ton of Cupid play. Fenrir to A, decent damage a la Bastet, but with that ultimate having a ton of control and his 2 having a lot of sustain, it makes it just a little bit safer. He just doesn't have as much potential to kill mages as a Bastet. To the same point, Fenrir has great initiations. It's very hard to lock him down, and I do expect we'll see a fair amount of Fenrir. He can't fight, I think, as many safe comps as he could last time because a lot of the defensive items he relied on got nerfed. To the same point, he still does a decent amount of damage and still has a fair amount of utility just with items like Frostbound Hammer. Very strong. Freya right now, I think, is extremely underrated. I think she is 1 step below Chiron and Ho Yi as the 3rd best hunter in the game right now. She has incredible control. If she gets to endgame, she wins because no other character in the game can fight her, including Kali. There's really nothing you can do to stop Freya just from running through your whole team, especially if you have someone like a Geb. She fits onto pretty much any comp that doesn't contain a Chronos, and honestly, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't want to have her on your squad. She's high damage, it's magical damage, which makes it harder to even build into, and even when someone builds things like Bulwark, she tears through them in a heartbeat. Telkines and Demonic Grip give her so much attack speed with Vitalis that it's impossible to lock her down even with attack speed reduction items. I feel like she is probably the most underrated character in the game currently. Geb to S. I think this is pretty clear. Having a move that cleanses CC on your teammates is pretty invaluable. I mean, there's not really a way to shut Geb down unless you shut the whole team down. Rollout still maintains to be a lot of damage and great movement around the map. Cataclysm is a great initiation tool, but Stone Shield is the key, saving many, many lives. I'm expecting even more from Geb. Guan Yu to A+, about the same place where Bologna is. I think that Guan Yu has a lot more solo queue potential than he does in high-level play, but at the same time, you have things like Conviction, which is healing a ridiculous amount. His self-sustain is great. His control is good. His ultimate is a great initiation tool. And all the defensive items that he can build that aren't nerfed, things like, well, it was small nerfs, but things like Hide of the Urchin, Breastplate of Valor, all of these things are so good on him, and he'll maintain a spot in the meta, as will Hades. Finds himself in the A tier, not quite as good as he was. A lot of the items that he was using got nerfed, and in a way that makes him a little, awkward. But he does still do a lot of damage. His early game is incredible. He's just not quite as dominating as he was before, specifically because of characters like Vimana coming back into the meta. Characters who can deal with his nonsense pretty handily. Hey, donation from Jordan. This, remember, going to charity. $5.15 added. Thanks, man. How about a B+? The character's good. The mid lane is a little unsafe right now. His early game is very hard to fight. His early game is very hard to fight with, but there are certain comps where he excels. There are certain matchups where he excels greatly. One of the few characters, I think, that can handle Nox. Frederick V, thank you for the sub. That handles Nox pretty well. She has a hard time poking, and if she overcommits the Habwa, he bursts her down before she can even recognize what's going on. To the same point, Nox actually can counter him pretty easily if the jungler is paying attention, because Habwa does not deal well with pressure, which is why he's in B+ and not A. He has a hard time with junglers right now, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Hell to B tier for now. It's possible we'll wind up seeing her a little bit more, but given the fact that you can leave the base with Weakening Curse, and the fact that she doesn't have any CC immunity in her kit, she has a cleanse that's not really great. I think she might be a good matchup for Ares, but aside from that, I don't really see much hell play coming. Weakening Curse is just too strong, and it's going to be very, very hard for her to deal with in the early game. Hercules to A tier. I think he's pretty balanced right now. I don't think I'd wind up picking him before Bellona or Guan in most comps, but still does what Hercules does. Great sustain, but again, access to Weakening Curse makes him a little bit weaker than he should be. Decent damage, though. Very good control. Multiple forms of CC, and good baiting potential. But again, Weakening Curse is just a bit too strong right now to allow him to be a top tier. Ho Yi, I think, is S. Slightly above Freya, but still below Chiron, to the point where I don't see you first picking this god every single time. Positioning with this god is a lot harder than any other god, and specifically because you're looking for double and triple bounces, whereas Chiron's just fighting you anywhere. He controls more space more freely than Ho Yi, and has a little bit more of a free ticket than Ho Yi, which is why he's not a top tier. Or he is a top tier, just not the tippy top. I still expect most games to contain a 100% pick ban rate, or most sets to contain a 100% pick ban rate for Ho Yi, whereas Freya is underrated. He is rated very accurately. Humbots to A+, likely the most overrated character in the game, the opposite of Freya. People value Fear No Evil a little bit more than they should in this meta. Even though that beads were nerfed, I feel like other junglers are getting away with a little bit more. Characters like Thor and Kali. Still great control. If you get those crits off, it's very strong. He still will wind up in a lot of games, especially coming off of Season 2, where he was valued so highly. I don't expect a lot of players to be switching away from him just yet, but I do think he's getting played a little bit more than he deserves. Isis clearly to S. A fair pick rate, a fair ban rate. Oh, excuse me one second. Thomas donated $5.15 to the charity. Thank you very much. Let's continue on. Excuse me. So Isis, I think, yeah, has a fair pick rate, fair ban rate. We're getting close to 100% here through relegations. Damage is very high. Circular protection is great. Ton of CC for this meta, but no CC immunity in the kit, and no major escape form keeps her out of S+ because the safety just isn't there. Still, ton of damage. Janice, however, to S+, definitely the top mage in the game right now. Not only the safest mage in the game, but has some of the highest utility, the highest damage, and of course, it's Janice. He can be both the most offensive and the most defensive mage in the game without even having to switch the build. He fits onto literally every single comp, and you would do yourself a favor by picking him. Kali to S. Very, very strong right now. Impossible to deal with in the endgame. Only character that can really box her is Freya. Tyler, thank you very much for the $10 donation. Kali does a ridiculous amount of damage, has great control with her incense. In the late game, can rush down, like I said, anybody. She deals with anything, and her ultimate is probably one of the most valuable things in the game currently, especially with how many slows are on the field and the fact that it grants you immunity. Another one, Jordy, thank you for the donation, $5. Brings us up to $63.99.95. Act now. Kepri to S+. Very clearly the top Guardian in the game right now because, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he breaks the game. The ability to resurrect a character is more than just giving them a life bar. It allows a character to go so insanely deep into a fight that there's no way to stop him. Plain and simple. Where Athena has ridiculous and repeated entrance into a fight, Kepri allows one person to go completely out of his mind and get away with it, which I think is very, very important. Riley donates $103, bringing us up to $6,502. Wow. Thank you very much. Kokolkin, garbage! B tier. I mean, the character just does nothing. He has no escape. He has no CC immunity. He just gets caught repeatedly. And even in a meta where burst damage is very important, it's just not worth it to try to risk that ult when you could just pick Habwa and actually hit someone with the same amount of damage. And at least that's kind of an escape. There's just no room for Kokolkin right now. I'm actually expecting to see him go down in the next wave. Kumbhakarna to A tier. I definitely think he's on par with Bacchus and Ares in the current meta. Very hard to deal with. A hard counter to Soul as well as a few other hunters. Just being able to shut them down. And probably the best character in the game, or best hunter in the game for triple attack speed. Think comps like Osiris, Kali, Hunter. Right, like that kind of stuff, he excels. Mesmerize is very hard to deal with, especially as a melee character, so I'm expecting a lot of Kumbha play. Loki to A tier. I think people are underrating him right now. I think if you can get through his first 7 levels, he becomes impossible to deal with. Crusher in its current state allows Loki to be the biggest scumbag that he's ever been while being in this game. He can build teleport for free, which means he's getting his items online faster. He gets beads for free, meaning he's getting items on faster. I don't think there's a single character that can use that 1800 gold faster than Loki that's not a support. So Loki, I'm expecting someone to pull out the jank. I really am. And I'm not looking forward to it. Medusa, very balanced right now. Same thing as on her Apollo. Decent damage. Obviously, Stone Gaze, very, very important. That Paralyze forces a lot out of players. Not a great escape, but still has one. So has both an escape and CC immunity in her kit. The damage, however, not quite to the same, and the safety not quite to the same part that someone like Chiron or Ho Yi has, but still a character I would expect is going to get a lot of screen time. Mercury B+ right now. I think he's pretty good, but has a hard time fitting onto certain comps. With how strong characters like Kali and Osiris are, it's pretty difficult to find another room for another auto attacker. Especially with how early people can buy beads. Mercury really excelled at the end of Season 2, where people couldn't buy beads as much because they, obviously in the early game, you wouldn't have the money for it. Since they get to leave the base with it, Mercury can't confirm those early kills he would normally be known for to allow him to spiral. His endgame is still very strong. I still expect him to see at least a little bit of play, but I wouldn't expect a lot. Neath to A+, slightly below Ho Yi Freya, but slightly above, of course, on her Apollo and Medusa. Good control, good damage, good escape, no CC immunity, but a long-range auto-targeted stun is very valuable in a meta where purification beads aren't as valuable. I'm expecting a lot of Neath play. Nemesis to A does very well against certain comps, most notably warrior heavy. Things like Vimanas and Tears fall victim to Nemesis very quickly. Her current build with Frostbound Hammer, Chins, and Stone Cutting Sword make her almost impossible to box for most of the cast. I mean, she rushes down hunters, she rushes down mages, and given the fact that she has damage reflection and a dash in her kit, as well as one of the most potent ultimates, I'm expecting to see a lot of Nem. Nashan A+ right now. CC immunity in the kit, a heal, self-sustain of course being very, very important, an ult that can erase a mage off the map, especially in a meta where mages are considered to be so powerful. Nasha sees a lot of play. He's not the safest, but with a good Geb or good Khepri, Nasha can get away with a lot of things that not a lot of other characters can. Nox to A+, despite the fact that we didn't see her a lot, she's definitely a higher tiered character than most would expect. Might even be higher than that, but it will take time to figure it out. Right now, her burst combo is impossible to deal with. If you get that silence and root on someone, the amount of damage they take from a Nox with Doom Orb is something that not a lot of players are ready for. Even with how many times we've been hit by it by this point, not many people still understand how much it's really going to do. With that, we should also note that with purification beads not being as relevant as they are at 160-second cooldown, the chances of her burning beads and reapplying to the same person in a team fight are actually pretty high, and the amount of damage that it does is in the thousands. At that point, there's not really much you can do to fight Nox. She's very safe. She can hide inside people. She can dash away. Her ultimate's super long range and gives her CC immunity. I like Nox, and I'm expecting to see a lot of her. Nuada A, decent damage, good control, hard to gank. That's pretty much it. She's really, really balanced right now. Slightly below Agni. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Nua, considering the mage tier is pretty strong right now with characters like Kronos, Agni, Nox, who are already on the board, right? And there's still more to come. I think Nua is good, has a fair place in the meta, fits on most comps, and will probably be a flavor pick for certain teams who play them well, people like Paradigm. Attack speed, very heavy right now. Odin, of course, being able to shut that down and lock down a lot of the people you see in the top tiers. Characters like Janus Chiron, Athena Kepri, Amatros, Kronos, Freya unless she ults, right? Geb. Most of these characters in the top tier get locked inside the Odin cage. A lot of them relying on attack speed, get that attack speed reduced. Vimana can't heal inside of it. No one can heal inside of it. Endgame's still pretty weak, but Odin plays solo and jungle pretty well right now, and I'm sure there's a few support players messing around with him. I do expect to see some Odin where Geb, Kepri, and Athena are taken off the board. Osiris to A+. This character is just like quintessential, must be in the God pool. Never loses a matchup, never wins a matchup. Well, that's not true. He wins a fair amount, but doesn't lose any. He goes even in a lot. His endgame isn't the best. I would say he's Vimana light right now. But at the same time, he can rush back the back line. He's insanely hard to deal with, and he has healing reduction in his kit, making him a good counter for a lot of different picks. Poseidon to A+ as well, similar to Agni, feels pretty balanced right now, but just slightly above where some of the other mages are. Poseidon, Kraken is very, very strong with early game Do More Brush, and given the fact that people aren't getting Sanctuary in the early game because they're buying beads or vice versa, Kraken's either killing people or baiting out their only active early enough to allow their junglers to pick up kills. Poseidon's a lot more valuable than I think people are showing credit for. On the other end of the spectrum, there's Ra. Again, healing isn't very big right now on a character who doesn't have a great escape. A small amount of CC immunity doesn't do much against, unless the character is similar to Ares. He can't move during it. He's still rooted. With that, Weakening Curse plays a big part of why Ra can't really get out of the solo lane or mid lane safely, and in the end game can't really sustain his team up safely if a character like Kali or a character like Hou Yi is able to run around just doing damage. Tsunami Dude, thank you for the sub. It's another $5 to charity. Ra remains in B tier right now and will likely stay there unless we see a change to the healing meta. Rom right now, an A+ character, I think slightly below, very similar to Neith. I think we'll see a fair amount of him being played. I think him and Neith will see picks in generally the same area, probably 3rd, 4th, sometimes 7th, 8th after ban phase. I feel like both of them can skirt by. If somehow a team gets Chiron with Freya, Hou Yi both getting banned, I would assume that Neith can still wind up making it through the picks. It's a pretty safe guess. Ratatosker doesn't do much right now. Although I'm under the impression that he might be better than this, I have no evidence to actually prove it. I think Emerald is fair. I think Opal is fair. I think Topaz is actually very good. The stun Acorn, a 2-second stun in a meta where beads are valued very, obviously they're valued highly, but you can't use them as much is what I've been trying to say. I think I've been wording that wrong throughout my tier list, but that's fine. Ratatosker has the potential to burst people down before they have the opportunity to react. The issue is, unless you go Emerald, his sustainability is great. Unless you go Opal or Topaz, he doesn't really have much utility. He doesn't bring enough to the table where you can fit him onto pretty much any comp at all. There are some matchups where he'll excel in the solo lane, but honestly, it's not enough to get him into a team fight and pull out the same things that a character like Guan Yu or Vimana could. I don't expect to see Ratatosker played all that much. In fact, the only players that I know that play Ratatosker will be on Eager. Both DJ Pernicus and Divios play this character fairly well, but even then, I don't think that they're going to run it down. With little fanfare, Raven goes to S+, wins every matchup in the solo lane, as well as goes even with any matchups that he doesn't. His endgame is some of the best of any warrior. His self-sustain is good. It's impossible to lock him down with his immunity, both CC and damage. He has a CC immune ult as well that allows him to chase. And Prana Onslaught probably does just a little bit too much damage. With that, the character's great. Him or Ao Kuang is definitely the best character in the game. And if you're current second pick in Picks Bans phase, it's likely you have to take out both. Scylla to S. Highest damage in the game. Probably has the innate ability to say, this team fight is over because I hit one ultimate shot. If Scylla goes even or gets ahead, I don't think there's a single mage out there that can end the game as fast as she could. Is she the best mage? No. She doesn't have a lot of utility aside from her one. Her escape is very good, although it is countered by a Wheelish. Scylla is very good. The damage is very high. The only thing is she, like I said, doesn't have a lot of utility, whereas Isis has a stun and a silence. She gives HP 5 and MP 5 and can reduce the damage that people take while healing them. Scylla's just like, I'm going to hope this person CC long enough for me to hit I'm a monster, reset it, and win the team fight. They are opposite ends of the spectrum. Serket right now, B+. I don't see a reason why I would want to play her. Given the fact that she can't buy Blink and beads in the early game, she loses a main part of her initiation. Given the fact that she doesn't have a lot of damage... Oh, excuse me. Damn, Daniel. Sorry, $5 donation from Daniel. Thank you. Given the fact that she doesn't have a lot of damage, that doesn't put her in a situation where she's likely to die, it's very hard for her to get her combo off. Her 1v1 or 1v2 potential is decent, but her team fight in the endgame is very poor. Even when she does have the ability to get beads and blink online, the cooldowns are way too long for her to utilize, and I don't see a lot of times where we're going to be seeing her picked early. If anything, it'll be a counter pick. Sobek to A. Ares, Bacchus, Kumbhakarna, same thing. The character has good CC, good utility, fair self-sustain, but doesn't quite bring the same things to the table that Geb or Khepri or Athena do. Character's still pretty strong, though. I do expect to see a fair amount of Sobek. Soul to A+. I don't know. I don't think she's a very good hunter. I think she's definitely overrated there. I think she's a good mid, but I don't think I would ever value her higher than Poseidon. I don't think that I would value her higher than Agni. I definitely would value her less than Kronos, and although she does a lot of damage, characters like Vimana and Kumbhakarna shut her down so completely that it's really hard to pick her in the first phase of picks without finding yourself in a matchup that's going to make it very hard for you to exist in the endgame. Similar to Hunbots, I consider her to be very overrated in the current meta. Even when she had the bug, where she still, I guess, has it, but even with the bug where she's doing extra damage, I don't think that she's as strong as people are giving her credit for. Not in Season 3. She dies too quickly. Sun Wukong to A tier. Just super simple. Very similar to Hercules. Has some matchups where he does not very well, but has matchups where he does fine. Can play support okay. He's not great. Good utility. You'll find that both 72 transformations and Master's Will have a fair amount of control, and the ability to take himself out of the fight using the Somersault Cloud makes sure that he is fairly safe as well. He utilizes Shell, Frenzy. I think that this warrior above all else can use the most actives safely. I think you can really put anything on him and be happy with it, ranging from Beads Aegis to Frenzy Shell. I don't think he's the best warrior. I don't think that we're going to see a ton of play from him, considering how strong warriors are, like Raven, Amaterasu, Guan Yu, Tyr Vimana. But he does fill a certain spot in the meta that I'm expecting will take some place. Sylvanas to A as well. I think some of the best use of meditation. Lotus Crown, very strong in the current meta, although very overlooked. He doesn't quite bring the same to the table as, Geb, but has a fair amount of control. Wrath of Terra maintains to be one of the best abilities in the game, considering you can't purification beads in response to it without wasting your cooldown. I like the character. I think he's a little bit lower than someone like Ares, but they're picked pretty much in the same place right now, to the point where they definitely both share the spot. Thanatos as well will be an A. Executes are valued very highly with Khepri being so strong. Not a lot of people are playing Thanatos, which is strange to me considering how hard it is to get these Beads Aegis off us in the early game. I'm expecting a lot of Thanatos and Poseidon picks. I really feel like going into Khepri as a first pick and then picking a Poseidon forces a Thanatos pick from first pick, because Thanatos Poseidon is impossible to deal with. It really is. I don't know. We'll see. I think the only problem with that is that Thor is still super relevant. Thor right now probably equal to Kali, maybe a little bit below. Third, probably strongest jungler in the game, right above Hunbots, who's fourth. Thor has great damage with his 1 and his 3. 2 forms of stun. His early game is incredible, which is so strong right now considering the contest at mid lane for mid Harpies that has to happen. Just incredible character, incredible character. Tier to S as well. Like most warriors, doesn't really lose any matchups, although Raven can surely prove difficult for him. You're not going to see a lot of Robin play, however. He's super safe. There's no one that really shuts him down completely, although Guan Yu has been known to lock him under the tower if he falls behind early. The biggest weakness to Tier is that his level 1 is just terrible, and it's probably the only reason why he's not an S+ character. If Fearless did more damage, or Power Cleave had some form of CC on it, I would expect that he would be one of the best characters in the game. Mary donates $5.15. Thank you, Mary. Going to charity. But good control, hard to kill him, probably the best sustain in the game currently as a character who heals for over 400 every time he swings his 2. Hard to lock down. Uller, B tier, no CC immunity, hard to confirm damage, only CC is one of the hardest skill shots to hit in the game from long range. Doesn't really bring a lot to the table, whereas Chiron, Ho Yi are able to confirm their damage so easily. I'm not expecting a lot of Uller play unless it's a team that really thinks that they're outclassing their opponents. Vamana to S, ultimate impossible to deal with for characters like Sol. Kronos has a hard time. Yeah, Freya actually burns through him pretty quickly, but no one else really has that opportunity. Vamana even wins most 2v1s. The thing is, he's hard to lock down. He uses all the current defensive items like Hide of the Urchin and Breastplate Valor and Bulwark of Hope very, very well, while not losing a lot of damage. His endgame is as close to difficult and impossible as it can be. And a lot of characters who don't have great escapes, characters like Poseidon and Sol, find this probably to be one of their hardest matchups in the game. Vulcan to B+. He actually might be a little bit higher than this. Dusty, thank you for the $5 donation. God bless. Vulcan's issue right now is, again, no CC immunity, no great escape. There's still no stun on his meatball. It's still that same knockback. So he can't peel away characters like Kali or Fenrir all that well, especially with their ultimates. With that, I think he's good, not great. There's certain comps he'll do pretty well in, like when he combos with a Wheelish. But for most of the time, we're probably not going to see a lot of Vulcan play. Shibalanke to B+. I don't see a lot of Shibalanke play coming. Although he is a hyper carry, it's probably better just to go Freya or Kronos in that role. They do close to the same damage, if not more, and they're much, much safer. Although I do think that Shibalanke's ult has an incredible place in the meta, I don't know if a lot of the pros are going to want this. It's likely that we could see a major rise in this character over the first couple of weeks, but given the fact that beads and sprint are hard to come by in the early game, I don't see him getting to endgame as quickly as he did in Season 2. Zany J-Man. Wait, Zany J-Man. That was a tag. I wonder if he put his first name as Zany J-Man or the tags finally work, because that'd be really cool. Xingqian, B+. Not quite as strong as a character like Ares or Bacchus. He does have good initiations. He's hard to deal with sometimes, but his ultimate is almost impossible to confirm, and aside from that, he has one form of CC that's pretty easily broken. Mongoose, thank you for the 7-month sub. Without having access to the same level of bullshit that he did at the end of Season 2, most notably the defensive items that he wore so freely, there's not really a lot this character can do to make himself as invincible as he was before. He's not as bulky. Scrib, thank you for the sub. And with that, I don't think he's bringing enough to the table. Someone like Ares who can cripple from so far away, or someone like Bacchus who can jump in so safely, or Kumbhakarna who has such repeated and annoying applications of Mesmerize to shut down multiple people. Really, Xingqian is rooting, and not even rooting, slowing a few people once in a while. It's really not as worth as it was in the last season. Ymir, on the other hand, to regular A. He does a fair amount of damage, good control, freeze very hard to deal with, and as we saw, Raffer really utilizing those walls well. And the walls, structures, are very important. In fact, I think I'm going to move him up to A+ here, because I think I underestimated the fact that characters like Tyr, Vamana, Kali all get stuffed really hard by structures, something that Thor does very well. I want to see major structure play coming out in this next run. Zeus to B+. I didn't think this character was good when other people did, Oh, Olgrim Fastbang, thank you for the sub. He's extremely unsafe, and while his damage is pretty high, if at any point the jungler decides that they're going to kill this character, it's likely going to see a Death of Zeus. He doesn't really use beads all that well, considering he can't counter. He doesn't really have great turn potential if any of his abilities are on cooldown whatsoever. And if any of his abilities are on cooldown, that means he can't be the harassment mage that most others are. Whereas you can throw out a Spirit Ball, you can throw out a Silence with Nox, you can throw out a Time Rift with Chronos. These things allow them to harass. Harass very important right now, and really I don't see a way for Chronos to do it without putting himself at major risk. And finally, Zhang Kui to A. Fairly tanky, good defense. The problem with him being a balanced mage is the fact that most of the mages in the game are much stronger than that. Chronos, much better mid pick right now. Scylla, Poseidon, Agni, definitely Janus. There are so many picks right now in mid that it's going to be very hard to get to a point where Zhang Kui is going to have any actual screen time. And when they do, Shell is so easily accessible in the early game that he's not going to really do any damage. I think he's fairly easily countered, but we'll leave him in A for now because he still brings a fair amount to the table with a slow that's very easily accessed, a stun that's easily applied, and of course a fair amount of health and defense between the build and his kit. This is where I see the meta going over the next couple of weeks. We'll revisit this after relegations has concluded, and we'll see exactly who winds up going up and who winds up going down. For S and S+, I'm expecting people to stay largely the same. A+, hard to say. A, I definitely think we're going to see a fair amount of shifting. Usually A is either the focal point of balance or where a character belongs if we don't know how they're going to perform yet, i.e. Loki. The B tier, I see them staying down there for quite some time without meta shifts. As for B+, it's a possibility that we see them go up or down over the next couple of weeks. It should be a lot of fun. Relegations will continue next week as the winners of the relegation tournaments will be going up against the Challenger Cup teams. Then the week after that, the winners will be going up against the bottom seeds from the SPL. Another $5 donation. Thank you very much. Remember, this tier list brought to you today by Game Changer Org. We're raising money to fight cancer. Namco Bandai, who has generously donated a ton to make sure the donations are coming through. And, of course, Crunchy Mondays, always brought to you by the cool cats and kittens over at Crunchyroll.